عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
How is everyone today?
Alhamdulillah, fine.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so let's officially start. Again, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining this training organized by the Center for Professional Development, CPD. I am Dr. Aini from the Learning Design Unit CPD, and inshallah I'll be your moderator for this training. So before we start our session, let's recite Ummul Kitab Al-Fatihah. Right, Alhamdulillah, for today's training, the title is Final Year Project Supervision Tips and Tricks. And Alhamdulillah, we are blessed with internal experts in their respective domain. We have the first speaker, Associate Prof. Dr. Aliza Aini, Muhammad Ralib, alias Muhammad Raghib, for the Science and Technology domain. And we have Associate Professor Dr. Tengku Siti Aisha, Tengku Azzman for the Social Science domains. Before we start, let me give you the overview of today's training and briefly introduce your speakers. So let me just share a screen. Okay. All right, final year project supervision tips and tricks. The duration is 2 hours. So the first speaker will be Associate Professor Dr. Aliza Aini, and she will be giving you from the perspective of science and technology domain for the first 1 hour. And then after that, we will have Associate Professor Dr. Tengku Siti Aisha for the social science domains for the last hour. So introduction for this training or webinar, the final year project is a crucial component of undergraduate education that bridges academic learning and professional practice. Effective supervision is essential for students to complete their FYP. So this training is designed to equip supervisors with the necessary skills and knowledge to provide optimal guidance and support to the FYP students for the science and technology and social science domains, inshallah. For the training outcomes, the first one is to enhance supervisors' understanding of the FYP process and its importance in the student development, to develop supervisor skill in the project proposal evaluation, selection, assignment. But then we'll see what will the speakers cover after this, but inshallah, okay. Equip supervisors with effective strategies for mentoring and coaching students, provide practical guidance on time management, progress monitoring, and problem solving in FYP supervision. And the last one is to foster collaboration among supervisors to share best practices and address common challenges. So let me introduce you for the first speaker. We have Associate Prof. Dr. Aliza Aini, Muhammad Ralib, alias Muhammad Raghib. The background, she is an Associate Professor at the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering, KOE, IUM. For the academic qualification, she obtained PhD Engineering from IUM in 2016, Master's Degree Electronics Engineering from IUM in 2012. Area of specialization, Engineering Technology, Microelectronics and Electrical and Electronic Engineering. Some courses are taught by Dr. Aliza: Electric Circuits, Electrical Engineering Lab, Electronics Engineering Lab, Fundamentals of Electrical Electronics, and also Final Year Project. The next speaker is Associate Professor Dr. Tengku Siti Aisha Tengku Azzman. She is an Associate Professor and also the head at the Department of Communication, AHAS KIR-KHS, IUM. She obtained PhD Communication Studies from Kent State University, USA in 2014. She obtained Master of Science Communication Technology from UPM in 2007. Area specialization, the use of new media and communication technology among young adults. I think this is one of a area of specialization. Some courses, Advanced Communication Theory, Computer-Mediated Communication, Intercultural Communication, Interpersonal Communication, and also FYP. All right, so don't forget, at the end of the training webinar, 2 CTD points will be awarded to those who fill in I attend. Inshallah, Sister Hilda will share the I attend link 50 minutes after the training starts. And then she also will check whether you are recorded in Zoom attendance for a minimum of a certain duration and to fill in the evaluation form within 24 hours. And please get ready for the photos to be taken at the end of the training, inshallah. So without further delay, let's welcome the first speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Aliza Aini.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Aini. Can you hear me well?
Yes, you can share your...
Okay. Okay, so I'll share my screen. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Aini, for a wonderful warming. Okay, so today, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Okay, so my name is Dr. Aliza Aini Muhammad Ralib. I'm from Electrical and Computer Engineering Department from Kulliyyah of Engineering IIUM. So today I'll be sharing my humble experience. So I believe all the participants here are more experienced than me, but I will share my humble experience on the FIP supervision tips and tricks. Okay, so as we can see in the, let me have the pointer. Okay, so FIP is actually a journey, it's a baby steps for research. So if we can see the picture here, we are here, the students is here, especially for the final year students. So the path towards at the end, they actually have a very many paths, and it's a struggle journey actually. So the path may not be obvious. This is where I think the supervisor play an important role to guide the students, and it need to be some sort of systematic way, and we will not left the student just behind, and to guide them which is the correct path towards their first step of research. Okay, so the outline of the workshop today is I will briefly explain. I am also the final year project coordinator for ECE department, and I will briefly explain our implementation in Kulliyyah of Engineering, and followed by supervisor-student relationship. What is the role of the supervisor and supervisee? And I will be sharing my humble experience on the current practice, what have been practiced here in our department, especially under Kulliyyah of Engineering, and also the common challenge that we face. Okay. So as we know, I believe most of the participants here have a vast experience on supervising final year project, right? So here I'm just sharing my perspective. So what is actually final year project? This is the subject taken after they have been here after 3 years. This is the fourth year of their undergraduate courses, right, in KFE. Okay, so it demonstrates whatever they have learned in the theory in these 3 years, they will apply them into one project that is what we call final year projects. Okay, so it is different from other modules where they don't have a proper classes. It's what we some sort called informal teaching. So it's actually a type of delivery, but it's between only the supervisor and the students. Okay, so the subject covers in the FIP is starting from how we define the problems, how they investigate what is the possible solutions. So it's not only searching, but so the academic writing. So how they present the results in a systematic way, either writing or verbally, because at the end of the presentation, FIP, they need to present and they need to defend whatever they have read and learned from the FIP, and they need to defend whether they understand or not. So they need to transfer all this into an action. So there is no formal lectures to attend except the briefing that will be, for example, in our department, we have 5 briefings. So it's just 5 briefings throughout the semester, but the most, the transfer of knowledge is mainly is actually from the supervisor to the supervisees or the FIP students. Okay, so since it's considered as the informal teaching, so discussion is very important. So either it is a regular discussion or We form the small group research meetings to discuss the progress weekly, every week, okay? And for the assessments, so they need to defend and present their progress and to the examiners. So this is what we call not only the transfer of the technical knowledge and how actually they survive and the lifelong learning from the writing and from the how they learn from the papers and some sort. Okay, so here I will show you the practice in the Kulliyyah of Engineering. So in the Kulliyyah of Engineering, we have the implementation of the outcome-based education. So it starts from the vision and mission, move to the program educational objective, and program outcome for each degrees, and lastly to the scores that is learning outcome. Okay, so especially for FYP, final year project, so there are 4 learning outcome that we cover from our side. So the first one is the understand the fundamental engineering. So or natural science. So this means whatever they have learned from the first year until the 3rd year. So they need to use all the knowledge, the fundamental theory to apply in the final year projects. And learning outcome number 2 is to be able to perform a detailed literature review. So this is a very important skills for research. So we need to train them from the FIP how to do a very systematic detailed literature review. Okay. Number 3, after they come up with the literature review, they can see what is the problem having faced currently. So they need to propose the design based on the literature review that have been performed earlier. Okay, so and the last one is to recognize and present the scientific finding in either in the oral means presentation and the written means in the report. Okay. So out of this learning outcomes, so usually the current practice, we will explain this in the first briefing, so they are clear what actually they need to do for the final year project. So all this learning outcome will move forward to the what we call program outcome. So as for under ISIDIPA, we are under Bachelor of Electrical and Electronic Engineering. So it will cover the program outcome number 1, engineering knowledge, problem analysis. Are they able to analyze the problem systematically based on the literature? And the literature need to be in the correct resource selection. So we guide them in detail on how to do that. And the third one is the investigation based on the methodology that they have designed. And the last one is the communication, where it's not only the oral communication, it covers on the writing skills, academic writing skills. Okay, so this is a starting. I believe the FIP is a very important steps journey for the undergraduate students to start to spark their interest for the research, means to spark their interest to further their studies on the postgraduate journey. Okay, so the timeline for FE is quite long. It's not like our courses, right? It's only 1 semester, but the time is 1 year, semester 1 and semester 2. So there here I summarize into 5 phases. The first one is the selection of topics and the supervisor. So this is a very important steps for the students. And number 1 is frequent meeting. As I said before, this is an informal education, right? So frequent meeting is very important, and the students need to attend all the briefings provided by the coordinator so that they can align whatever the discussion with the supervisor, all the skills, how they do the literature, what is the important tools that they need to use will be covered in the FIP briefings. And to ensure that, because they don't have the classes, to ensure that they have some progress, so they need to submit the progress report once in I think in the middle of the semester. So this practice is different from different departments. So what I'm saying is under my department, is department, it may be different from other department. Okay, and the last one is a final report and presentation. So at first, the student need to have, I believe that student need to have a clear expectation what they are going to oversee throughout their 1 year journey on the final year project. Okay. So as I said before, this consists of FYP1 and FYP2. So this is the generic practice for the science under the science base. So first they go through the literature review and they formulate the research question from why is happen like that, what, why, and how, the three why, what the three W, and they will develop the methodology depends on the research questions. And the students will, once the methodology is very clear, so they will move to the next semester, that is FYP2. So they will start to collect the data. So the data is very important so that they can do the analysis and the model testing. On top of that, the validation is important to make sure that the data analysis and whatever result they have it is benchmarked with other research works. And the discussion is also another skills, how they analyze how they discuss the data, the science data based on the findings and with the conclusion. So this is there are so many skills that they will learn in the FYP1 and FYP2. So I believe to have the effective supervision is very critical for the FYP students. Okay, so as we know, supervising is challenging. From my experience, I have about 30 students from 2014 until now. So it's very challenging for me. So we need like a support group to ensure that is our method is correct or not. So different students have different style of supervision actually. So it is challenging. So the FYP students they actually don't know where to begin. So I believe that there is supervisor need to play a very important role to guide from the first day, from the first phase just now, not only until the report, but until towards the end of the presentations. Okay, so they have started on to collect the data, to do the literature, which paper that they need to read. So it's quite challenging for both actually, supervisor and supervisee. So from this paper that I read, how does supervision technique affect the research? So it conclude that here the supervision with effective monitoring. So it's not just monitoring, but it should be with the effective monitoring and planning. If we don't have this effective monitoring and planning, so we just, that's why the student, some of the student maybe are just don't want to meet us and will be maybe missing in action because maybe there is no proper supervision. And yeah, okay, so on top of the challenging, so I believe it is also rewarding. So I just want to share with you, this is my first FYP student when I report my duty. So I start with one and then I move to two students. So one of the students is working currently at Intel, and this is then I took two FYP students. So one of the students got IEEE EDS award, alhamdulillah. And this is Alia. Alia become KE Best Student Awards for co-curricular. So this is I always think this FYP supervision is like a journey for me. So starting from day one, and it will be a satisfaction if from my perspective, from my opinion, if we guide them properly so that they will boost their motivation to maybe to uh to continue their studies, inshallah. Okay, so continue from here. This is also, we not only the formal, so we also eat together. Okay, for this picture is this is the first time I start to collaborate. So I believe research is not only stand-alone research. So to success, we need to collaborate. So I start my small collaboration with other department from chemical engineering and science engineering. So we co-supervision together. And then this is one of my students. And the last one, this is the recent one. My students got awards from IEEE. So I believe this is all rewarding and there is a challenging. So if who holds the key to success of final year project? So as we can see here, success is the above one as the iceberg. So this is what people see. So to get the effective supervision, I believe you need to have some dedication, not only from the students, because this is, if you can see the arrow here, right, it's a two-way communication. So it's not only we rely only on the supervisor. Sorry, there's a typo here. This should be supervisor. So you need to be a two-way role. Supervisor also need to be dedicated, sacrifice some time, at least one hour per week for the students, and the dedication need to be from the supervisor and supervisee. And if the students is down, we need some supervisor need to hold them, not only on the technical part, I think also on the maybe on the emotional part. Okay, because this is a journey. Okay, so to guide the role of the supervisor, this is summary from one of the book. So it said to guide, to mentor FIP students in such a way they can learn a systematic. So the keyword here is a systematic process of discovery of knowledge. So there is no such a same way. So different supervisors have different experience during their PhD and their master, how they've been developed from their supervisor, right? So different supervisor have different way. So as long that we can have a systematic process of discovery of knowledge, so we need to guide them systematically from phase 1, what happened to the phase 2, phase 3 until phase 5. So what kind of guidance? So what is about the, one of them is how they do the literature, is the core of the FIP, and how they write the literature review, how they write, how they even read the papers. Are they reading the abstract only and then look at the figure, or because it can be overwhelmed? So we previously were also students, right? So we face that journey of the challenge to understand the paper. So we share with them what is our challenge, what is our struggle, so they may understand. Okay, and then presenting conference, and on top of that, dealing with up and downs. Actually, not only in research, maybe they have family problems. So but we need to set the boundaries, but maybe we need to cater that also in the journey of FIP. So a supervisor can only guide, can mentor, but actually the learning and exploring is done actually by the students. So we need to motivate constantly, to guide, to so that they can be more better on the how they do the literature, how they do the academic writing, and how they're going to present in a conference. So this is the lifelong learning skills, I believe. So not only if they don't want to further their studies, these skills still, they can still use it when they work outside later. Okay. Okay, so this is one of the survey that I found from one of the website here. So this is a survey on the student perception on the quality and attributes of supervisors. So they have the standard deviation and mean here. As we can see here, the rank number 1 here is she's friendly, open, and flexible. So friendly, open, and flexible is depend on our build up, right? So depend on our experience, experience during our when we have been trained during our postgraduate. So some of the it can be open if some of the supervisor can be more friendly, can be more flexible. And number 2, I think knowledgeable and resourceful. So to share the experience, so when I start to offer the final project, when I report the duty, so it's actually the core of my PhD works. But towards the end, we would like to explore a new research, right? So when it is a challenge for me. So that's where I start to collaborate with other departments so that we can share our expertise together. So one of the criteria from the student, so he need to be knowledgeable on the title offered for FIP. And then we can see here, interested and supportive to my research. So we need to go down and go also together in the same boat I believe if we just give the title but we don't read the paper, so it quite hard for the students to understand. So we need to go to the same boat to also try to understand if the research is a new research for us. Okay. And what else I can see here? Available when needed for the project discussions. So I believe this is also important criteria. Okay. And this is another survey from the graduate students. So the most important one I can see here is accessible whenever needed and schedule regular meeting to monitor student progress. So meeting the students weekly is, I believe this is the most efficient way so we can monitor whether the students have some progress on it. Either if we cannot see face to face, we communicate through WhatsApp, to any medium, as long as we didn't lost our communication within a week. Okay. So there's an end provide and set the deadline for the submission. So all these criteria are I also still in the process of learning. So I believe this is what is from the student's perspective. Okay. So what kind of relationship between the supervisor and supervisee? So we can see here there are one is permissive, authoritative, authoritarian, and uninvolved. So from my opinion, so to have an effective supervision, so this is the way we need to have a clear standards, clear expectations, be flexible because research is unknown, right? Sometimes we decide on the method A, it's not working. So we need to be flexible, responsive, and this is the important criteria as a supervisor. So from this book, The Unwritten Rule of PhD Research, it says that supervision is like a marriage relationship. So it's like even I will say to my student, it's like your supervisor is your father or your mother for your studies for 1 year at least. So because a good communication is very important between the supervisor and supervisors. And there is no single type of right student or right supervisors. It depends on how we depend on the students also how they react. Okay, so I summarize here how to be some of the important role to be a good supervisor. So number one is, as mentioned before, is the expertise. Number two is we are into the students' works, so we cannot leave the students alone. So we are also need to be there, need to try to understand the paper, try to find the important, maybe at least the review paper, pass to them, discuss weekly what is what they can understand. Okay, supportive, facilitate on the process when there's deadline, what you need to submit, encourage them that they can write, they can read. So what is the strategy to read? And the last one is good communication is very responsive. Responsive to student email, WhatsApp. So you can set the expectations whether you only can be communicated on the office hours or even out of office hours through WhatsApp. So it's up to our expectation and willingness to listen and engage. Okay, so I would like to share my current practice of the FYP supervision. Okay, the first one is here we select the topics and the supervisor. So on the first day when we meet the prospective students, we discuss the topic and agree with the expectation. So what is the expectation means here is are we going you to expect to come weekly? So how to establish the relationship? What is your role as a supervisor? Need to be responsive. So you need to be clear in the first week of the meeting. So the student have the clear expectation what we actually want to deliver lah. Okay. And from the first week, we share with the students on the important tools that will assist on their literature review, such as we give the Mendeley to them so that they can explore first on the self-learning on the first week while waiting for the paper. And what I practice is I usually share the important review paper, only one paper, but it's a very important review paper related to the topic, and request them to study first just to get a brief idea and what is the keyword on the title, and try to explain the most fundamental why they want to do this FIP. Okay. So from that, for example, here, one of the example is my FIP title is Enos on the fruit ripeness monitoring. So we sit down and on the keywords. So the students start to explain what is meaning by machine learning, volatile organic compound, how the gas sensor works. Okay, and they need to come out on the why, how on the title, and from the keyword we start to expand on the paper. So once they find the paper, so what I practice as they need to submit the paper that they find to me to check whether the paper is in the scope or not. Then they start to read, so that because there are a lot of 1,100 papers, so I try to guide them on which paper they need to read. Okay, and they will start to do the log, catalog, and digest using the Excel. Whatever they read, they put in the Mendeley, and they need to catalog in the form of table from author's date, title, summary. And digest means we discuss in every week what have they read from the paper and try to understand the overall literature review. Okay, so we try to culture them the culture of researcher, search, read, write, and think weekly. So this the discussion is through weekly progress meeting. So usually the first week, what I did, I set the same time and same time for the weekly meeting in the Google Calendar. So we no need to chase them. So every time at the same time and same day, we expect them to either directly online or offline meeting to discuss. Okay, so throughout the WhatsApp also, so we communicate on the important reference. So this is the culture of search, read, write, and think. Okay, so then phase 3, attend all briefings. So for here, so after done the literature review, so we have what we call skill for data analysis, especially for science research. So maybe how they plot the graph and plan for publication and conference. So supervisor also need to take note what is the briefing that have been done from the coordinator. So we take so they already been given on the how to cite on Mendeley. So it's not all from supervisors. So at least they get the knowledge from the coordinators. So they use that and then discuss with the supervisor. Okay. So from the literature point of view, so my humble experience, so how I discuss with the students on the literature, I always request them to draw from the inverted triangle. So to see, for example, just now, Enos for volatile organic compound sensor. So why they want to sense VOC? What is that? Is it a gas? Is it why why we want to sense the gas that is harmful? So it will affect to the health. So why this is important? Because some sort will boost their motivation to read. So if they clear what is the application of their research, maybe this will benefit the society, not during the FIP, maybe 10 years later. So they will boost their motivation to do the research, okay? Because to read the paper, you need some motivation, okay? So what research have been found. So once they see the problem of the nose, then they go more on the specific, and then until they find the problem statement, okay? So usually my practice, I always ask them to draw this triangle and explain row by row, okay? So important resource selection, I believe, is very important, because FIP students, this is the first time they try to read the paper, they try to find the paper, and what I found out, they don't know which paper that is important, which paper that they should start first. So we know that in the paper level, so we have the journal, we have publication, we have conference, and we have the WOS journal, we have a Scopus journal. So to scope out within 1 year, right, within 6 months on the literature, we speed up the literature review process by giving them the correct, very good paper, maybe under the WOS on the review paper done on this research. So they can do what we call a snowballing effect. So from the review paper, they can find from the reference. So from that, they will extract 5 paper that is related and come up with the literature review. So because this is not a postgraduate journey, so they need to read everything, right? So FIP will have a limited time with all the courses, so we have to guide them from the correct resource selection. So they just need to maybe read the very good paper, then they can come up a very good literature review. So once they get, for example, just now this is from the review paper, they extract a 5 paper. So from my perspective, it no need to be a very so many papers. So 5, but it's a very quality paper, so it's enough for FIP to start their literature review and summarize in a form of table. So log, catalog, and digest is they're using the Excel. So they have a software skill in the Excel on how they are going to log and catalog on top of the help of a Mendeley, and they summarize this from the table part. So what have been done, what is the sensing material, what is the substrate used, what is the methodology of fabrication or simulation, how they measure it. So it's come from the research question, what, why, how, and how is their performance, which one is better. So I believe this table is very important because from here they can see maybe this paper is having the highest sensitivity, and we'll see how is their method of fabrication. So they will, because FIP, we don't need the major contribution, right? Is a no novelty needed. So they just try, we just want to culture them the skill of research. So they can just follow first the method of maybe this one of the paper and try to repeat and try to improve whatever towards FIP2. Okay. So after the table, so outline is very important for the thesis. So I believe supervisor also need to play important role to sit together to draft what based on your reading from the inverted triangle, and to draft the detailed outline together with the student, so they can have a clear perspective on how to actually write their literature review. So when we discuss the outline, so they can do week by week which progress they have read. So we do constructive feedback on whatever they have write, and then move forward to the other section. Okay, then once the literature done, so most of when the examiner evaluate the FIP, what they see from my experience is the problem statements and also the objective. So problem statement come out from the literature, and objective need to be the correct word. So from my experience, from my perspective, again, the student and the supervisor need to really discuss on the correct keyword on the objective to be a smart objective. Okay. So from the science point of view, so this is a general methodology of research project. So it's background, hypothesis, whether the method A will work or not, and test with the experiment. If it is working, we come up with the analysis. Okay. So you need a planning, implementing, and analysis. So from the objective that we already guide just now with a correct keyword, again, I believe supervisor also try to sit down and discuss in detail how is the methodology. So the student need to come up with their own methodology first, and we discuss in detail whether the methodology meets or not the objective that have been discussed before. So what I can see here, this is one of the examples. So in the methodology, we can divide into 3 groups according to the objective. For example, objective 1 to investigate is the literature. Objective 2 is the experiment, and objective 3 maybe is the simulation to or the measurement performance. Okay, so I believe this will make the student clear on what they want to do on the FIP2. Okay, so this is just some of the example. Okay, on the last part is the report part. So on the report part, there are so many tools that we can see from the online on how to write a report well. So one of them is a Grammarly. So where we share with the students the tools, and we know the AI also can help us on the writing. So always we give them the constant reminder that you can AI is just a tool that you need to really understand whatever you write, and you need to rephrase the sentence. So this is a constant reminder needed so that they can use it ethically, okay? And auto citation, so remind and don't cite manually. So sure, what's your skill in Mendeley to do the auto citation, so it will save their time, because they still have other subjects, right? So all these two will really help to assist their report. So, and it depends on, we have the introduction literature method, and this is a generic template for the reports. So we guide them. So during the writing, especially on the writing part, constructive feedback is very crucial. So usually my practice, I don't wait, they need to submit part by part. So we constantly give feedback on their write up, inshallah. Okay. And for the science research, so we have a lot of graph, right? So usually the student will, this is just my perspective. So they use Excel. So from what my humble experience, so I see that Excel is very we need to have a graph that is ready for publication. So we expect if the student having a good result, so once they finish their FIP, we target that the good result can be transferred to a good publication. So there'll be a rewarding for the students. So during the FIP, we already train them on which software that they can use for the scientific plotting, either Excel or Origin. So I would like to share that Origin is a very effective way on do the scientific plotting. So it will directly give you a graph that is ready for publication. So I practice this for my FIP before. So directly when I want to publish their results, so I directly can use their graph and it present well, alhamdulillah. Okay. And we don't stop until the report. So our roles didn't stop here. So just now we say PO communication is not only the write-in, it's about the presentation skills. So even on the presentation, so we set the expectation with the students on what you need to have inside your presentation. It need to be not a lot of text, with a graphical, attractive, using the 10 minutes, how they are going to present their result. So with all this guideline, application, problem statement, objective literature, and the rest. Okay, so once the slide is ready, so I would like to recommend that mock presentation is also important. So because this is the first time where if in KOE we have a what we call IDP, integrated design project. So in that project they present in the group, but final project is the first time they present by the alone to present their research. So I believe mock presentation is very important for the supervisors so that they will be ready on what they're going to present in front of the examiners. Okay. Okay. Finally, to have a success FIP, I strongly believe collaboration in FIP will lead to the long-term success. So we can't do research alone. So we need to integrate with other Kulliyyah or other department or even to the industry so that it will speed up the process of the research. So this is my humble experience. So I collaborate with MIMOS previously on the printed electronic MIMOS. So this is one of my FIP students. So we pitch his FIP topic in MIMOS. So with the win-win situation, what we can offer we can offer the simulation part, and the MIMOS can offer on the fabrication part, because they have all the very superb facilities, and we use the sharing resources. And on top of that, then we do the ND. I just start with the NDA, and then we have a frequent, not a frequent, maybe two meeting together to discuss on the result. So it will actually speed up the process of FIP. If we just do alone in standalone on the Kulliyyah or department with the maybe the limited facilities, so we can just do in small scope. So with the collaboration, it will become stronger, inshallah. Okay, so this is also my another collaboration with the other department in the Kulliyyah of Engineering. So we share expertise. So my area is in electronics. So I also involved on the sensor, which involved on the chemical part and the chemical part. So we collaborate with the chemical engineering and also even mechatronic on the application part. Okay, and a strong research group is also important. So I would like because FIP you can do alone, so we need a strong support from a big group from the postgraduate, so they also can help the students during the lab because they spend most of the time when they do the experiments, so they do help a lot in the lab. Okay, so last of not least, so FIP, there are different type of FIP students. Some of them is very motivated and we have a good research ability. Some of them are motivated but don't have any effort. Some of them are motivated but lack of research ability. So this is our role to really guide them. Depends. So it will not fit one technique for all. Okay. And I summarize this. We face this when there's a challenge for the good supervision. So there's some of them feared their supervisors, not able to live up to the expectations, develop very strained and cut dry relationship. And one of them, I would like to have a sense of loneliness and abandonment. So supervisor play a very important role so that they will not live alone. So they will not be missing in action. Okay. So this year I would like to share some books that may help us to upgrade our skills on the, because this supervision is a continuous learning process. It requires commitment, expectation, even patience, emotional patience, and also skills. So this is some of the books that I have found online. So maybe we can go through these books to upgrade our research. So finally, all in all, supervisors are people. FIP students are people. So there will be some frictions, but supervisor need to be honest. When there is some friction, we need to communicate very clearly, need to have a right expectation from the first week, and we can just talk and adjust because it's like a marriage relationship. If we do this right, inshallah, the student will boost themselves so that they can spark their interest to do research more, because at the end, why we do this FIP, why we do this research is so that our research can benefit the society for rahmatan lil alamin, inshallah. Okay, so with that, I end my talk. This is one of the gift given from my FIP students. So it says, supervisor takes a hand, open a mind, and touches a heart. Okay, so I think that's all from me.
Inshallah, thank you so much, Aliza.
Okay.
So, we still have time before we
Okay.
can call Dr. Tengku Aisha. So there is one question in the chat. Salam, Dr. Aliza. Are the students exposed to any research activities or relevant activities till the 4th year? I think it is too late to gain research skill at the 4th year. As you mentioned, there are more challenges both to the supervisor and supervising.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mehmet, right?
Yes,
Okay,
Dr.
thank you so much for the question. Okay, so yeah, for KOE, so the research skill, the research activity just being exposed only starting from the final year actually, because from the first year until the 3rd year is more focused on the courses, but we have what we call integrated design project on the 3rd year. So it is a group project. It's also based on a project-based learning. So I believe the students can also culture some research skill during the integrated design project on the 3rd year, but it's based on the group. So once they know how to find the problem, how to get the solution, there is some guidance from the IDP integrated design project coordinator there. So some of the skill can be brought up to the final year project. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Aliza. Dr. Mehmet, is the answer satisfactory?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Questions if we have time.
Thank
Okay.
you for
Thank you. All right, so there is one question, Doctor. What is the from Dr. Kamaruzzaman, what is the best approach to entertain passive students? This is a
yeah.
very good question, right?
Thank you, Dr. Kamaruzzaman. So yeah, from my experience, I have about 30 FIP students. So if you get a good student, we are very motivated, right? To guide them to learn. So some of them are passive. So how can we do that? So for the passive students, for the missing in action students, I also do have some, I think 2 or 3 missing in action students. So I try to call them, I try to message them, but they don't reply until the end. So what I did previously, if I even call their parents. So we are here to help, right? So if not, then we fail the FIP. So we call their parents. So I realized that it's like a relationship. So we cannot be so harsh for these students. So we need to take into a soft way how we can touch their heart. We explain our experience, maybe in the we check do you have any problems, so until we go deep to the family problems, because this is not just technical. When we discuss every week, we don't talk about technical, we talk about how is their life. So some of them even share their problems. So because they cannot concentrate on reading the paper if they have a big problem or financial problem, right? So we need to at least, but we need to set the boundaries. So at least we know their problems. So we make clear that what I can conclude here is we touch the soft part of the student, means that touch their heart first for the passive students, so they can know they need, if they don't want to finish their, one of the student become demotivated because maybe they one of the, this is my experience, he don't want to further engineering, then this is the final year, then he don't want to further go further, he just want to stop. So as the spirit of UAE is a Murabi, right? So it's not only technical knowledge, we touch the soft part. If we cannot solve, we try to get our support from our friends. How can we console them? Because maybe our way is not work. So we need our friend to support, maybe the academic advisor. How can we help the students? Okay, so for the passive or problematic students, I'm also the FIP coordinator. So in our practice for these problematic students, we especially for the deadline for the presentation, the normal presentation maybe on week 15. So we try to extend a bit so that we try to help them as much as we can, so that they at least can submit their report at least and present until the end of the day. Yeah, inshallah. Okay.
Thank you, Doctor. Okay, there is a question from Prof. Mira. I love how you engage industries in your FIP. At what stage of the FIP you will take them to the field?
Okay, thank you, Prof. Mira, for the question. So for the engagement with the students, this is my first experience, I think last semester with the MIMOS. So at what stage means the win-win situation is they have the facilities of what we call we have printed electronics research, means we print the sensor. So my research group went to MIMOS and see their facilities, and I just tried to, can we offer FIP title? So they agreed. So what they can offer is they offer to print the sensors at their facilities. And what I can offer is I offer that I can do the simulation part and to study the theoretical how the sensor works. So when the win-win situation is clear, so once the student design the sensor, then we send the sensor there, and the MIMOS fabricate, and we go there for the measurement. So the expectation, we have set a clear expectation. So until what stage, right? So Alhamdulillah, this student, he will further his master next semester. Alhamdulillah. So until what stage? So he will continue the project for the master level. So yeah, Alhamdulillah. Yeah, I hope I answer you, Mira.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I think I can give you one more question, and then the other question relating to students' rude, not punctual, mental health. I think this one I can give the question to both of you.
Okay.
Yes, this one question. What are your tips to handle students who are what to do from Dr. Othman? What to do with the supervisors who is not following up their student?
Thank you, Prof. Osman. So can I clarify, not following up is missing in action? Is it, Prof? Prof. Osman? What to do with the supervisors who is not following up? I think it's a missing in action student, right? So I don't have a
Dr. Aliza,
yes.
Dr. Aliza, I think what Prof. Osman meant is supervisor who did not do their job lah, basically.
Oh, the other way.
Ah,
Okay.
the other way, huh?
Okay. So that's why it is okay, back to my perspective. I believe supervision is a very big amanah to us. We are as an academician, as a murabi, is part of teaching. This is also a teaching, it's an informal teaching, but it's as a murabi, this is a big amanah for us to make sure that the students know how to do FIP. So what to do, I can't give a correct. This is from the awareness from the heart. What is our amanah? Why we are given amanah here at IUM as a murabi to guide the students so that they can perform, they can be a better students, better people that will benefit the society outside. So how they can get the skills is not only from the classes, but also the main skill is actually from the FIP.
Okay. I agree with your answer. Yes, something coming from the heart, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we can stop the session for Dr. Aliza now, and we'll proceed with the social science domain. So please welcome Associate Professor Dr. Tengku Aisha.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the introduction, Dr. Raini. Can I share my slides now?
Yes, please.
Because it says only one participant can share at a time. So I'm not sure if I can share.
Dr. Aliza, I think Dr. Aliza already stopped sharing.
Okay, sekejap I can't seem to share. I'm not sure why. Okay, sekejap okay, dah boleh.
Okay.
Sekejap Okay, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank CPD for inviting me for this sharing session. I'm not sure if I'm the best person to talk on behalf of social sciences, but I'm honored to have this responsibility. Just a little bit of background. So when I refer to my upper sharing experience, this is what influenced lah. So I'm currently the head for Department of Communication. I was also the academic advisor for Department of Communication, and previously I was also AKAL for HS division. For those of you who are not familiar, AHAS KRKHS has 11 departments, and we are generally divided into Islamic Revealed Knowledge and Human Sciences. So you are correct. My research interest is in social media and new communication technology among young adults. And my primary method of doing research is actually quantitative because I graduated from the US. So that's the tendency. So these are some of the outlines for my presentation today. I want to talk about sharing experience of FYP in AHAS KRKHS. As you know, also social sciences consists of economics, ICOL, co-ed and things like that. So they may do things a little bit differently lah. So when I refer to FYPs, what is being done at our Kulliyyah. I also want to talk a little bit about student, supervisor and coordinator role, the importance of effective supervision, managing FYP for social sciences, and some of the challenges and solutions that we can probably take into account when we manage our FYP. So in terms of FYP for AHAS KRKHS, currently we are following two different study plans. For the 171 study plan, it's actually a Kulliyyah required courses. So it's compulsory for all departments in RKHS. As you can see here from section B2, final year project consists of 6 credit hours. But how it's managed is different according to the departments. And for the 221 study plan, which is the newest study plan, is treated as a supervision course. So like Dr. Aliza said just now, we don't really have classes for FYP. So it consists of supervision, and whether it's compulsory or optional depends on the department. So for the newest study plan, it's a little bit more flexible. So for communication, it's not compulsory to have FYP. So we do not have FYP actually for our 221 study plan. And for other departments like English, I think it's compulsory. So they do have it. And for other departments, it's optional, so whether to take FYP or internship. So again, it depends on the department and how they implement. in terms of having briefings or even at the final year project presentation. So it's not necessarily compulsory. And in terms of, so I'm going to put on my AKA hat a little bit. In terms of curriculum, we decide based on our program standard. So in different departments, we have either a program standard or they follow MQA requirements. So what is the nature of FYP in social sciences? I would say it's similar to a capstone, which is you are supposed to apply all accumulated knowledge from the courses that you take and do a research project in it. Okay, and is FYP spread out in 2 semesters or just one? So again, like I mentioned earlier, it depends on the department. In communication, we have 2. Com 4994, which is research proposal, and the next semester they take, if they pass 4994, they take 4996, which is final year project 2, which is the final phase, which is data collection and also the final report writing. And again, it depends on the program standard, and whether IP is given depends on the supervisor. Sometimes we give IP for Com 4996 a little bit of time so that they can complete. So I'll talk about this more when it comes to managing expectations and things like that lah. So again, we are allowed to give in progress for FYP. And in terms of learning outcomes, so these are some of the learning outcomes. I'm just giving examples from communication. So for FYP1, they're expected to present their proposals. So propose appropriate writing techniques for research projects. And for 4996 FYP2, they're expected to collect data and produce a final research report project. Okay, so in that sense, this is what our goals are. So we refer to the CLOs in order to design assessments and rubrics for the course. And again, in terms of standardizing whether students are eligible or not, in AHA's KRKHS, they must be a final year student. Okay, and again, like I mentioned earlier, it's compulsory for 171 study plan. For communication, there are prerequisites. So they must complete statistics, research methods, and communication and media theory. So again, we do reject students if they don't fulfill this prerequisite, because based on our experience, students who are concurrently taking FYP1 and communication theory, for example, they are not able to cope because they can't think of a communication theory because they have not taken that subject. So again, this sometimes happens when students don't follow study plan. So we try to implement prerequisites so that they are ready to take FYP by the time that they are taking it lah. Okay, and of course, there are prerequisites. Sometimes students fail a 4994, so they cannot proceed to 4996, which means they have to repeat 4994. So again, it's very important for the supervisor and the student to set an immediate goal and follow the timeline given so that they don't it doesn't affect their GOT and things like that. And when it comes to FYP in AHA's KRKHS, we do have a general guideline that our Kulliyyah has prepared for students. So this is available at the Kulliyyah website there. So undergraduate final year project general guidelines. I find this guideline very helpful because it sets standardized expectations in terms of what students should or how they should structure the final year project report. And these are some of the contents for the final year project report. So we have introduction, final year project registration, topic selection, thesis supervision, roles and responsibilities, ethical review of the research conduct, evaluation process and criteria, and also thesis style guidelines. So these are just general guidelines. Students can also discuss with the supervisor in terms of how they want to structure the report. And in terms of sharing experience with my department, we do conduct briefings at least in week 2 of the semester, because we assign them in week 1, and then we have a final year project briefing for all students in order to outline their expectations of what they should do, and also sharing session. We encourage not only mentorship among lecturers and students, but also with each other. So FYP students will definitely share sessions, share their experiences with FYP1 students, so that junior students are able to learn from their experience. So I think this is helpful, especially if they share the same supervisor. So again, each person in the department is assigned a group of students for both FYP1 and FYP2. So that's how it's structured in communication. So, and again, we do offer some workshops on our own at the departmental level. For example, a recent workshop that we offered to students was that in terms of navigating research writing and literature review with a little help from ChatGPT. So we can't deny the influence of AI now in writing and also structuring your ideas. So we try to teach them ethically how to use ChatGPT. So this is our most recent workshop. And of course, in terms of sharing experience across different departments, we do have general guideline, but everyone in the communication department must follow a standardized rubric when it comes to both proposal and also the final year project too. So for COM 4994, this is the standardized rubric. Introduction 30%, literature review 20%, methodology 30%, format, language 10%, and we do have this component of consultation and commitment. So each student is required to meet their supervisor at least 5 times per semester. It can be more, and we do not mandate that they meet the supervisors face to face. It can be throughout different platforms. But when we, based from our experience, when we put in this consultation marks, students are more careful to consult their supervisors. But ada yang suka hilang-hilang. There are students who like to just disappear or go AWOL. So we tried to implement this in order to sort of like motivate them to see their supervisors. And again, in 4996, almost similar standardized rubric, but we give more portions to results and discussion section because that describes the whole process of the FYP after collecting data. Again, same thing, consultation 10%, format and language 10%. So these are the rubrics that we follow for our department. And it helps in terms of standardizing the marks and going across board in terms of grades, how are grades given. And this is the, like I said, the FYP guideline for our Kulliyyah. We have some thesis structure implemented. Introduction should consist of problem statement, research questions or hypotheses, research objectives, significance of the study, definition of terms, and summary of the introduction chapter. Late review should consist of theoretical framework, current empirical literature, and summary of the literature review chapter. Chapter 3 is methodology. So in social sciences, particularly in AHAS KRK, just even human sciences and IRK can be a little bit different in terms of preferred methodology. So generally in human sciences, they can choose quantitative or qualitative. So normally for psychology, for example, they like experiments. So I believe that's being done. In communication, we generally, for quantitative, we choose a survey or content analysis. Whereas for qualitative, you can do interview, focus group discussions, and so on. I think for IRK, they also look a lot at secondary documents. So that's their content analysis. So that's their main methodology. So this is just a general guideline. They can sort of adjust based on the methodology chosen. So participants, data collection procedures, data analysis, ethical considerations, and summary of the method chapter. So again, I think the practice of ethical consideration differs according to department. I believe in psychology department, currently they have their own ethics committee looking at FYP ethical considerations, because when you deal with human subjects and also vulnerable population, this is something that you have to consider. So these are the things that we include in methodology. And finally, results, present results of data, both descriptively and inferentially for quantitative research, automatically for qualitative. Subsections of results are typically organized following research hypotheses and questions and summary of the results section. And finally, we have the discussion and conclusion section, which consists of synthesis and justification of findings, limitations of study, suggestion for future research, and summary of discussion and conclusion chapter. So our rubric for both FYP1 and FYP2 are also structured based on the items that needs to be included in the final year project. Okay. So next, I would like to talk about the roles of the supervisor, the student, and also the FYP coordinator. That is actually outlined in our guideline. So as an FYP supervisor, I like that Dr. Aliza just not talk about touching the heart. I think it's very important. So we play our role in as a Murabbi Murid in the Murabbi-Murid relationships. It's very important for us to get to know our students, their likes and dislikes, in order to motivate them. And these are some of the things that we do have to perform our roles as a supervisor. One is conduct regular meetings with students and adhere to students' absenteeism rules and regulation as stipulated in the university rules and regulations. So personally, I have handed out warning letters in FYP. I know it's not a taught course, but I've handed out warning letters when students disappear. Because I do have a personal WhatsApp group with all my supervisees, but sometimes they blue tick you, they don't answer, you ask them when they're meeting and they don't come. So sometimes warning letter can trigger them to try to meet you because they are afraid that you are going to bar them, although these are the rules. You have to follow the number of times stipulated for the consultation. Number two, guide students in the planning and implementation of the research project, ensuring the final thesis product uphold a high academic quality and integrity. I think in AHA's caricatures, the practice is that if the students obtain an A, the research should be publishable, which is something that is a goal that you can try to meet. And in terms of guiding students, it's very important for you to provide constructive feedback, meet them from time to time. Sometimes they are stuck. In my case, because I'm trained quantitatively, I do give sometimes long sessions for entering the data via SPSS and teach them how to do the analysis and things like that. Because although we do have research methodology, sometimes the practical part they forget after, because they take in their second year for RM, so they forget. So something that I try to spend time teaching them how to do. Again, if they are stuck and things like that. And monitor students' progress according to research schedule and provide feedback upon written drafts within reasonable time. So I always give deadlines. I think in our department, we give a standardized deadline for submission, but it's up to the supervisor to extend. So if the students have problems, for example, mental health issue, or they do have personal problems, or they're taking too many subjects, sometimes we do have room to be a little bit more flexible. So in terms of giving deadline, but of course, we tell them, this is the last deadline, you must submit something or else it will affect your grade. So again, IP is given if there are reasonable justification for giving IP for FYP2. Supervisors should also examine and grade both research proposals and the final report, and it's also our responsibility to key in students' result in the system. So it's very important to follow the standardized rubrics because when it comes to audit and things like that, even across multiple sections, you must follow the same rubric. So I think this is something that we do cross-check in our department assessment presentation and also in the department DBOAE lah. So we do have we check the results and to see whether students fail FYP or not and what can be done to mitigate that sort of situation. And I think, for example, a good supervisor should inspire. Okay, I'm very proud to say that we have Prof. Said Arabi Aidid in our department. He's a very well-known researcher in PR and also political communication. So for students to get such a experience and also very respected Murabbi is very, very inspiring. So I'm glad that even for FYP undergraduate students, we do assign them to such professor, and he does a really good job of inspiring students. A good supervisor should also be supportive. So again, I think it's very important for both the supervisor, the FYP coordinator, and also the HOD to also cross-check with each other lah. What are the problems faced by students? Because sometimes they are not forthcoming to their FYP supervisor, but they talk to academic advisor and things like that. So we do try to discuss problematic students in departmental meetings to ensure that we are on the same page and to discuss what to do with them. And open communication is very important. I think a good supervisor should be flexible with the platforms that you're choosing to communicate with your students. For example, if you are using WhatsApp or Telegram, or it doesn't have to be face-to-face. I do Google Meet sometimes when I do admit as a HOD, my schedule is sometimes not very flexible. I have meeting schedules and things like that. Sometimes they are last minute. So you have to be flexible. And I do meet students after 5 p.m. if necessary, because that's the only time that they have left. And in communication, also negotiating deadlines is very important for final year students, because they're also taking internship class at the same time with FYP. So we do have an internship class where they are required to organize workshops and programs related to their field. So it can get very hectic. So I think both on the supervisor and the student end, you have to be open and you have to be flexible to a certain extent. And of course, being responsive and providing constructive feedback, something that's very important for a good supervisor to do. Drafts should be checked and rechecked at least 2 or 3 times if you can. And so I think I find Google Doc very useful, because we are working on the same documents, and then you can straight away comment on the document, and you have to monitor the students' progress and step in if there's any issues. So again, FYP is a mentorship relationship. So you get to know them as people, you get to know them, what their working styles are like. You need to understand what motivates them. So this is something that we need to do as a good supervisor. So again, on the other hand, students should also consult the supervisor. Sometimes they go missing, like I said, they go AWOL. They don't discuss aspects of research. And I think for problematic students, sometimes we are concerned that they are conducting academic misconduct behavior, such as they are maybe engaging in data manipulation, or using ChatGPT only. And so these are some of the challenges. So when you consult and monitor, when your students consult and follow the time schedule, there are less room for manipulation. So again, students should also give time for supervisors to look at the drafts. So document feedback should be reasonable. Of course, they have to allow us time to read and then meet up to discuss if there's anything that's not clear. And students should definitely proofread their work. This is something I think is very common in social sciences. English is not our first language, but we have a lot of tools to help cross-check our work. And of course, fund your own research course. Unless you have a FRGS or things like that grant, then you have to, students have to understand that it may cost them some money lah. And adhere to ethical guidelines, for example, plagiarism, responsibilities towards participants, prepare and submit research proposal and final research report following the deadlines and according to the stipulated guidelines. So these are some of the roles of students. And like I mentioned earlier, I think it's also very important for the FYP coordinator to play their role. In our department, the FYP coordinator assigns students to supervisors. And like I said, it depends on the department, how this is being practiced. Sometimes we look at the teaching load. So we don't want too many FYP1 and too many FYP2 at the same time. We also look at whether students repeat FYP, so they need to be reassigned to the same supervisor or not. So these are some of the decision making that the supervisors, the FYP coordinator has to do. And further, of course, I think it's common in some departments for students to be assigned based on the research interest or methodology of the supervisor lah. Okay, and the coordinator must monitor and ensure the planning and implementation of FYP to run smoothly. So again, briefings, standardized deadlines, and then step in if there's any issues. Schedule FYP briefings, like I said. I think it's also very important for the FYP coordinator to compile all the evaluation forms and database of students, supervisors, and thesis titles. So we've been asked in our previous audit lah, what are the FYP titles for this semester? So again, documentation is very important for the FYP coordinator to sort of standardize and keep track. And finally, of course, mediate if there's any issues between supervisor and supervisees. So this is sometimes very important, especially you need to be delicate and sensitive, especially if the supervisor is a senior and the students are too scared to speak to them. So this is where FYP coordinator can step in and try to mediate if the situation gets out of hand. Of course, at the same time, sometimes junior students, they are afraid to meet their supervisors. This can happen lah. In my experience, there are students who repeat FYP because they're too afraid to meet their supervisors. They go AWOL, they have personal problems that they're not willing to share. So as a FYP coordinator, you can keep track and mediate together with the academic advisor and also the head of department. So this is the role of the FYP coordinator. And of course, in terms of developing effective supervision, so these are some of the things that I think that are important. So like I said, the FYP relationship between supervisor and supervisee is a murabbi-murid relationship. And this is in line with the IIM mission and vision, where mentorship is very important. So sometimes because of the good experience they have, they continue their postgraduate studies, they decide to become an academician, or maybe for future employment. I've had students who managed to get a good job at a big company because the company was attracted to their FYP title, thesis, because it's current and in trend. So again, if students are good at data analytics and things like that, so that can help them get future employment through their projects. And it helps students develop good research skills. So like I said, this is a capstone. This is their chance to apply whatever they've learned throughout the 4 years and produce a good FYP and practice their data analysis, writing, and publication skill. And of course, from our end also, for junior academic staff, maybe you've not had a lot of experience in supervising PG students. So you start with UG students. And this is a good practice for you to start your supervision skill in terms of becoming a supervisor. So these are some of the importance of effective supervision in FYP, in my opinion. And how do we develop a successful student-supervisor relationship? So in my humble experience, these are some of the things that you can do. For example, practice effective communication. Be clear about your expectations. So if you are a supervisor that's more comfortable meeting face-to-face, you need to let the students know. Okay, and or if your schedule is tight and sometimes you have to jump into a Zoom meeting, that's fine. But be clear, be flexible for meetings and offer support and constructive criticism. So sometimes students are stuck, they don't know how to do data analysis. So you have to step in and help them and inspire your students, help them develop their needs and interests. If you have funds like FRGS, involve them in a small scale project. I've had experience with RMC grant during COVID. One of my students, FYP student, developed his thesis based on the data that we collected together. So I think that's something that we can do together and manage differences of opinion. So for example, negotiating deadlines, there are different types of students. One approach would not fit all. So like just now it was mentioned that some students are motivated, some are not. So you need to sort of like manage that differences of opinion and monitor progress and provide solutions. Some help you can do, academic support, point them to the correct resources, suggest peer support. Like for example, for my FYP group, there's 4 to 5 students together. They talk to each other as well. So that can help in terms of having peer support instead of just relying on just one source of support. And of course, a successful student-supervisor relationship encourages knowledge transfer. So some of the outputs for social sciences can include publishing papers or research books, participating at conferences, or even developing future projects. So these are some of the sharing experience that I can have on my end. And I think it's also similar with other supervisors in Ahas KRKHS. We do try to encourage journal article publications. So these are some of the publications that I develop with my FYP students based on our data together in the FYP project. So one in the middle is article published in IAM Medical Journal. We looked at COVID. So this is the RMC grant that I had, that a student also helped me with the project in his FYP. And another article was published in IAM Journal of Human Sciences, which is examining factors that influence students' involvement in da'wah activities via social media. So in communication especially, there's a lot of gap in terms of the Islamic use of social media, for example. So we do try to encourage students to do these kinds of research, and it's good that it gets published. And this is another collaboration that I have with my student. Her name is Nur Farhanis Fazil. She had an idea and I just pointed her in the right direction. So as a result from her FYP project, we managed to present the data in a conference, and also currently we are trying to publish the article. And I think it's a very successful collaboration because the student had a specific interest that met the gap, and I just directed her in the correct direction. So perhaps students are not clear about what theory to use, and they cannot verbalize their ideas in a more academic manner. So you just try to push them in the right direction. So Alhamdulillah, this was, I think, a very successful collaboration on our end. And of course, in from other departments, I think they've published research books based on FYP projects. So this is something that you can also do. Select the good ones, and then this is, I think, done by sociology. So they produce research books based on FYP projects. And of course, we have internal conferences that students can try to participate in. So this is an example of the Iconish conference that we had last year that had some participation from different departments in our KHS. And so moving on, I would like to talk about some of the maybe common issues in data collection, analysis, and techniques. So I think supervisors should be flexible with techniques that are chosen by students. So encourage them to decide based on the nature of study. So again, in some departments, it's very common to match the student and FYP supervisor based on methodology or research interest. So this can be done early on. But for example, in communication, we don't do this because we try to balance the teaching workload. So we do assign them straight away regardless of the methodology. But this is something that you can be flexible with. So be realistic with your expectations on data collection and analysis. Because for us, FYP 1 is a proposal, FYP 2 is a data collection. There's a sort of a short period of time where you have to collect data. So be realistic. So you also have to consider what has been taught in your research methodology class. So in communication, for the new study plan, we have separated both qualitative and quantitative research methods, and they're both compulsory. So they have exposures to both. But for the old study plan, our research method is very quantitative. So if they choose to do qualitative, I do encourage them to sit in the newer study plan quality research method so that they have some exposure. And what is your students' capability? So again, data collection analysis depends on the student's capability. Sometimes students are capable to do higher and more sophisticated techniques for data collection. So I think you can encourage that. For example, they might want to do multiple regressions or factor analysis or things like that. But if they're not able to do that, that's fine. So I think you have to also assess the students' capability. What are they capable of doing? At the same time, try to motivate them to do analysis because this can be publishable. So what is your goal for the FYP project? So again, it depends on the students' motivation for taking FYP. Some of them want to get a good job, so their project may be geared towards what's current in the industry. Some of them want to get an academic job, so their FYP is very theoretical, for example. So you can consider the goals for the FYP, and this should be negotiated between the supervisor and also the student. And sometimes we do have cases where students don't know what they want to do. So they just come in, and I think I've heard the same topic for every semester. Academic success and factors that influence students' GPA. So this is something that's suggested every semester. So it shows you that they don't know what they want to do. So in communication, we have two separate specialization, which is integrated media journalism. The other one is strategic communication. So we try to encourage students to do research in their chosen specialization. So for example, in integrated media journalism, you can do things on content analysis of news reports, looking at the roles and responsibility of reporters or content of television program and things like that. Whereas for strategic communication, they can do things on CSR, public relations, or organizational context. So this is something that we try to sort of like provide them with some sort of things that research interest so that they know what they want to do next. And of course, planning is very essential. Like I said, it may require you to do things in a very organized manner, especially if you have ethical committee at the departmental level. Consideration for sample size, is FYP spread out across 2 semesters or 1 semester. For example, in psychology, I think everything's been done in 1 semester. So they really have to plan things out very carefully. And can it be embedded as part of another course's assessment? So I like the fact that cross-disciplinary research can be done. So I think in our new curriculum, we have this component of cross-disciplinary assessments. So FYP can be a good example of how you can collaborate with other departments in order to produce a good FYP. And of course, assistance with data analysis. Student can sit in methodology classes again to refresh their knowledge or to gain more exposure. They can attend workshops, for example. So these are some of the workshops that have been organized at our Kulliyyah and also other other bodies. So we have research on workshops on SPSS and also workshops on AI. So this is very important now. And in terms of structuring the final report, so these are some of the things that I think the supervisor can do. So deadlines can be negotiated, but supervisors should be firm. So in communication, we agree to standardize the deadlines for final submission of FYP reports and presentation of proposal for FYP. So this is so this is also sharing of experience what happened with our FYP. We have quite some students who fail FYP 1. So then they retake and it causes delay to their study plan. And we try to find out what their issues are. And I think for some students, they don't manage their time well. So starting from, I think, SEM 1, we've decided to reinstate our presentation of proposal after the midterm break. So this actually gives them motivation to sort of like at least have a semi-structured idea by the time mid-break comes and they need to present their proposal. So perhaps this will reduce students who repeat and teach them to manage their time. So supervisor should at least be responsible to revise draft 2 or 3 times, like I mentioned earlier. And of course, in terms of structuring the final report, what we do is that sometimes we don't have time to meet face-to-face because it gets very hectic towards the end. So we try to schedule meetings with online or even just do revisions via Google Doc and then communicate with them via WhatsApp. So I think as a supervisor, you can try to maybe you have a certain style that you have to communicate with your students, but you also have to be flexible at the same time. So look at the student and in terms of how they prefer to communicate. So this is something that you can negotiate, I think. And so what do we do? So these are things that I probably would advise students what to do in terms of structuring the final year project. So literature review, creating a unified team, organizing. So organizing is something that maybe they don't have much exposure to in terms of tools and things like that. So you can use different tools to sort of like organize background material and work from an outline and practice. So that's why revisions has to be made 2 or 3 times because sometimes they're not clear about their ideas with the first draft. Then it should progress from there. So things that should be gradual and they should be monitoring in different phases. And of course, we tell them to avoid plagiarism. So I think this is very tricky now. Maybe some students have learned the trick in terms of how to bypass, turn it in or things like that with AI. So we need to be vigilant. Teach them to use academic writing style because sometimes academic writing style is very different from other types of writing style. Tell them to avoid being wordy. It's very important to consider biased languages, exaggeration, and proofreading. So proofreading, you can use free tools to edit the final year project report. And finally, I've reached almost the final section of this talk today, which is talking about some common challenges and solutions. So the first part is in terms of time management. So I think it's similar across sciences and social sciences. So I think so this is a common issue that we have. So plan regular meetings and be flexible with platforms. So again, like I said, sometimes warning and barring can trigger students to be a bit more vigilant. So this is maybe something that you want to do. So for example, let me share my experience with my final year project student 2 last semester. He's a good writer, but he's got problems with time management. So when we put in the consultation requirement, I said, you have to meet me 5 times. And then he said, he didn't see me the whole semester for FYP2, which is okay if you know what you're doing. So towards the end, he said, it's okay. I can schedule like meetings every day in week 14. So 5 times, then I meet the rubric, right? So there are students like this as well. So they disappear and then they are not motivated and things like that. So I had to step in and say, show me your data. I was afraid that he would, because he did an interview. So I wanted him to provide me with the transcript, the recordings of the data, because I was really worried that because he didn't consult me, that he was doing something else. And there are also cases of students that actually ask other students to do the data analysis for them. So this is where something as a supervisor, when you do gradual monitoring, you would find out. My colleague had this experience. The student did not see her regularly and submitted a final year project with data analysis techniques that we did not teach at communication. So we detected that early on, and the supervisor called the student and explained your findings. She was not able to explain her findings. And the way the report was written is very psychology. So maybe she had a friend from psychology who wrote the data analysis for her. So these are some of the things that we need to do. So regular monitoring and things like that. So with time management, supervision has to be gradual. You can't just, at the end, submit a final report and then you don't know what, the progress. Encourage ethical use of AI for writing. So like I said, students are smarter than us in this sense. They've learned how to use the AI. And what I've noticed is that literature review is very sophisticated, use very difficult verbs that I think they don't even understand what that means, but it's not related to the data. So that's how you catch them. So in terms of that, you can use your AI, but you got to understand what you're writing. You got to understand, you have to cite the sources. Where did you get this from? So dia still kena baca jugalah journal article and things like that. You can use AI to sort of structure your ideas, but it has to be supported by evidence. So this is where we teach them to be ethical lah. And of course, in terms of balancing the interests of the supervisor and the supervisee, what goals can we aim for? So sometimes if you have a good FRGS and the student doesn't mind doing the project, based on the same topic, that's where it can be very successful collaboration. And even smaller grants, you can try to encourage them. But at the same time, it depends on the student. Some students want to publish. They want to produce really good FYP project to get future employment and things like that. Other students are just content to pass. So I think one style does not fit all. So you need to balance your interest and students' interest as well, and encourage them to choose a topic that excites them. Because in our department's case, you have to stay with that topic for 6 months, FYP1, FYP2. So if you lose interest midway, it can cause them to be demotivated. And so sometimes I tell them, you're not changing the world. You just do a simple topic that excites you, that has theoretical support, and something that, is current. So you can do things based on your interest. For example, two students of mine this semester, they're doing things on Spotify and also TikTok exercise videos. So one student has very strong interest in health communication and sports communication. The other students like marketing and music. So I say it's okay. That's your interest. So proceed. You just have to structure it in an academic manner. And of course, sometimes we have to reject their topics. For example, in communication, they're very fond of doing LGBT and Netflix. So Netflix has a lot of non-Sharia compliant content that we try to discourage them from doing. So I said, why do you want to choose this topic when there are a lot of other things that you can do? So we try to also encourage them to look at the aspects of Islamic communication, for example, which is where a lot of the research work is still needed. So I tell them, it's okay for you to do Netflix, but why don't you look at it in terms of, how people use it to access certain types of content and things like not just looking at LGBT. So try to inspire them to choose topics that excites them, at the same time is in line with our IEM mission and vision. And okay, repeated failures, how do we manage? So this is something that, unfortunately, I have to be honest, has occurred in my department. So people fail FYP. So what do we do? So I think at one time during COVID, we had an online conference with those who, online video conferencing with all those who repeat. We try to find out their problems. So one student had health issues. So this is something that I think you take study leave. So we encourage them. I said, rather than failing, again, why do you take study leave? Other students have issues with finance and also mental health issues. And sometimes what happens is they only have the FYP to complete. So sayang 3 credit hour tapi dia tak manage nak habis because they have some sort of personal issue. So this is where the academic advisor, FYP coordinator, HOD has to step in sometimes to help and assist. And what we've done is that sometimes if the students are repeating FYP, we change the supervisor. So we say, can we assign you to somebody else? So perhaps your working style, it does not match your previous supervisor. Let's see what happens. Itu kalau dah tak ada choice lah. Sometimes our colleagues also, sometimes we have to try to make them understand. So this is your role as a murabbi. Sometimes it's not always smooth sailing. So this is a difficult journey sometimes. So you get challenging students. For example, students with ADHD, students who go AWOL. So this is how we manage at departmental level. We discuss at department meetings, and then sometimes we meet the student face to face, and then try to find out what their problems are lah. So it is our hope that repeated failures are reduced in the future. And managing expectations, what do both supervisor and students hope to achieve from this? So again, if your student is academically challenged or have personal issues or are not able to do complicated analysis, I think as a supervisor, you have to be realistic and also provide resources and support for data analysis. Make full use of resources. For example, our database. I teach them how to use Google Scholar, for example, because sometimes the full paper is not available, but is uploaded by the researcher on academic, on other SNS like ResearchGate and things like that. So it's free. Okay, so they can access the PDF version. You can encourage them to use the computer labs where we are equipped with SPSS or things like that, and also attend workshops if there are workshops available. So this is something that you can point students to the right direction in terms of getting resources. So in summary, so these are some of the things that I think I can sum up in terms of supervision tips and tricks. It's always our goal to establish good mentorship. So it should be an enjoyable relationship, something that you develop throughout the 6 months, and then you develop good collaboration. You also get to know them as people. For example, my student got married immediately right after, so she invited me. So it's a very personal relationship sometimes. So you get to know them and you get to know their problems as well. Sometimes they tell you they have issues at home. So it's not just the academic side of it or developing research skill. It's a murabi-murid relationship. So try to foster mutual respect and open communication. So the students should also understand to respect the lecturer's time. Sometimes they text you late at night, weekends at 1 a.m. or things like that. And you can cross-check yourself lah. Have you been doing the same thing? I try to refrain from contacting my students late at night because I think you should respect their time. They should respect your time. So sometimes weekends are for family. So consider that. Jangan kacau And have open communication. You shouldn't blue tick your students. You shouldn't blue tick you. So this is something that sometimes occurs lah. So talk to them, and if they are not able to respond immediately, try to give them some time. But it should be open communication. You should also be very honest with feedback. Sometimes I tell my students, I give you flexibility to choose your topic, but your theory is way off. What are you hoping to achieve from this? Or you want to do qualitative, but you are not well equipped. So what is your concern? And then they tell me, oh, quantitative requires a lot of sample size. I'm not comfortable, or I don't think I can achieve such numbers in such short time. So I say, that's fine. This is just to give you some experience. Of course, we have the targeted sample size, but if you don't meet it, doesn't mean you can't graduate. And so be open with your expectations, be open with your feedback. Managing timelines appropriately. So again, we've discussed this again and again. I think with FYP, this is a big hurdle that everyone has to overcome. So try to practice being vigilant and monitoring, and of course promote a positive and harmonious academic culture. So I think it's very common sometimes for you to, like I said, develop a good relationship with your supervisor. You inspire them, you motivate them, sometimes you are their mother, you're the teacher, you're the murabi at the same time, you're the counselor also. So try to promote a positive and harmonious academic culture where there's mutual respect between both of you. So that's what I can summarize. Thank you very much for listening. Let me stop sharing now. Thank you.
Allah, thank you so much, Doctor. Okay, let me see at the chat. Okay, so we go back to the two questions posed during Dr. Aliza's session. So this is a question from Dr. Mariam. I think both of you can answer this. Doctor, what are your tips to handle students who are having attitude issues, rude and not punctual? Perhaps maybe Prof. Tengku, Dr. Tengku, Aisha can start first.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mariam, for the question. So I think in terms of dealing mental health issue, the first thing you have to do is cross-check. Are there valid documentation? For example, some students sometimes claim they have ADHD, they have bipolar, but it's not really valid. So you need to cross-check. And of course, they need to register with the DSU if they have disability or things like that. So we do have students who are blind, autistic, and things like that. But in terms of mental health challenge, I think they don't register, but they need to have proper documentation. So this is where you cross-check. And then if their story is valid, sometimes you need to take over and talk to the FYP supervisor. Look, maybe they did not disclose that they have to take medication. It makes them sleepy. So they cannot meet your consultation time, or they cannot meet your deadlines because of that. And I know students who have mental health issue, sometimes they also think they're okay. So they stop taking medication. We've had cases where students sometimes dia pingsan atau dia ada panic attacks because they think they're okay, they've not taken their medication for a long time, and it recurs. So again, you need to also sometimes if your colleague does not know the background story, you need to tell. So that I think that's where we discuss in the departmental level lah. And of course, we have things like fit to study committee kan. So if the student is a danger to himself or herself or other people, this is sometimes where you need to refer to the IM policy lah to manage this issue. But as a FIP supervisor, I think also realistically, students are now using this as excuse to get away with a lot of things. So I think we need to cross-check lah. At the same time, be empathetic if it's true. So that's from my end. Thank you, Dr. Raini.
Thank you. So I think that one also answering the Dr. Andi's question on the supervising student who are dealing with mental health challenges. Dr. Aliza, your answer perhaps?
On the dealing with mental health challenges, right? So I have one experience last semester. Okay, so the student have some mental health challenges which we already aware from the academic advisor since I think second year until final year. So we try to accommodate. So close relationship between supervisor and academic advisor and support from the department is very important especially for those who are having mental health. First, I agree with Dr. Aisha, we need to cross-check. So once we validate that there is some problem, so close support from the academic advisor. For example, one of the cases, he failed FIP1 and have failed so many times before. So we call his parents, and if he didn't take FIP1, he failed last semester. If he need to extend another, because this is the only subject others already done. So if not, he need to take 2 semesters only FIP. So we try to accommodate by offering the FIP1 this short semester. So actually he have done the literature halfway, but he been like, I think, I'm not sure, OCD is very perfectionist. So missing in action, I tried to call and he didn't reply. So until the end, we discussed and we call his parents and he responds. So then we try to supervise by this semester and we see how we can help him. So we can just release him. So whatever happened to him, we can just ignore. But I think we need to help whatever we can. Yeah. So, but there's actually a limit. So until the end, if we can't find the solution, it's actually up to the students because he is the one who will do the FIP. Yeah.
So basically, for the supervisors, they need to seek help from the academic advisor, from the head department, so everybody in the kuliah, basically, right? To double check on the mental health issue. So, what are your approaches when dealing with students with attitude problem? Maybe Dr. Aisha?
When it comes to, like I said, I think everyone has this experience lah, where sometimes students can be rude, can be AWOL. Like for example, recent student told me, I want to choose qualitative because you know nothing about that. So I think he was trying to joke, but it didn't come across as very respectful. So I had to step in and say, look, I'm not your friend. You shouldn't talk to me like that. And we may be cordial, but let's be respectful. So I think in the end, I think he was apologizing and saying, "Oh, I'm just joking," and things like that lah. So I think you need to set a border lah with your students, kan, in terms of how do you expect them to behave in that sense? It can be very collegiate, but if you're not showing me mutual respect, then I have to step in and say, I don't like your behavior. So I think maybe influenced by my 6 years in the US, I'm very direct, and sometimes not very Asian, right? But you cannot be indirect sometimes with students when it comes to their behaviors. So I think you have to be very firm and step in.
Okay. Dr. Aliza?
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Aisha. So as I said before, of course there will be we need to be clear. So if there is touch our heart, so we need to
just say that we don't want to have friction because this is a long relationship. It's a marriage. It's like a marriage. The communication. So don't be just say whatever you want to say so that we can move on. So if not, then it's like because it's about barakah, right? If we hati kan dia, so how can we guide? How can we mentor them, right? So just be frank. You have done something that is not rude, so I don't like this way. So I think the solution is just say be clear in whatever is your expectation.
Well, we need to set boundaries, right, with our supervisor. Okay, so I've seen one raised hand, Dr. Mehmet.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for both presenters, Dr. Aisha and Dr. Aliza. My question is about the encouragement of students to be independent, young researcher. I mean, I agree. Last time, a few days ago, we discussed Prof. Shukran briefly. Oh yes, I mean, Murabbi, we believe it. It's our belief system. We are everywhere, Murabbi, not only on campus life. But at the same time, because I think Dr. Aisha briefly mentioned that professional life after their graduation. Currently, the market, professional life, looking for independent individuals. And the first question, what is your degree? How you contribute independently to our company, to our sector, they ask the bosses. So where is the independency in your research activities? Thank you very much. Or how you encourage students to be independent?
Okay, so Isab, which one? Who wants to answer first?
Thank you very much for the question, Dr. Mehmet. So I think in terms of being independent, I think it's very, very important to remember that FYP is capstone. They need to apply all the knowledge that they've done throughout the 4 years. So you cannot hold their hand, definitely. So I'm not sure about other people's practice, but what I normally do is sometimes I teach them just a portion. And I tell them, okay, we've refreshed how to key in, how to analyze. Then continue, go ahead. And sometimes I give them samples of how to do the write up. But I do encourage them to try on their own. And I think sometimes with very good students, you don't need to do much. I had a very good student. She's currently trying to apply for an AT in our department. I hope she's successful. Her FYP managed to attract employers to do because she did on digital marketing. I did not teach her any analysis. I said, you challenge yourself. And she did it on her own and it was correct. So there are students like this who don't really need a lot of hand-holding. But for weaker students, I think you just point them to the right direction. Definitely, you have to encourage them to be independent because I think we've had comments where students have very good CGPA, but when they go to the working world, they don't know what to do because everything's been so structured and guided at our end. So I think it's not good practice to, hold their hand throughout the whole process. So that's my opinion.
Thank you, Dr. Aisha. Dr. Aliza?
Okay, thank you, Prof. Mehmet, for your question. So be independent, I agree with Dr. Aisha. It depends on the students. So for the A student or good students, we can just guide a little and then they can do their way. Then it deliver the results well. And even the report writing, right? So we just give an example. For example, this is how the structure, so they can just do well even in the second or third draft. So but however, for most of not some of the students cannot be independent. So that's where I think the supervision very focused supervision is needed for this type of student who actually lack of writing skills, they don't know what to do, right? So at least we give some guidance a bit. So at the end maybe FIP2, they already have all the skills and all the skills, then we can leave them and we can let them independence. Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Aliza. Okay, one last question. Okay, so this question meant for Dr. Aisha. How do you keep yourself motivated and positive on top of all those challenges? We are human after all. Have you ever encountered a very low point?
So thank you very much for the question. I think it's a really good question. So as academics, we deal a lot with young scholars, young researchers, students. Sometimes it's very, very challenging. I was the academic advisor also for my department for nearly 7 or 6 years. So to be honest, it was very challenging because you have to be empathetic and, you know, at the same time, you have to also be firm when they want things that are not, you know, according to study plan. They want to choose their supervisors. We've had cases where students merayu, dia tak nak supervisor yang strict. After 2-3 minggu dia kata, boleh tak saya nak tukar, saya nak dengan madam. Tak boleh lah. I kata, we already assign you the supervisor kan. So work with whoever that you have to work. And there are low points, of course, where I had to take, itulah my colleague is very fond of saying, student je ke ada mental health issue, kita pun ada mental health issue juga. So we have to deal with so many different human behaviors. So you need to take a break if things get overwhelming, and you have to remember that you cannot please everyone. So I think that's something that we need to be very clear with students. Sometimes your requests are not reasonable. So that's what I can say.
Thank you, Dr. Aisha. Maybe perhaps Dr. Aliza, you want to add a little bit?
I think Dr. Aisha has sum up. So we are human, right? So until when we can help them. So we try our best, but still we have a limit because we have our own family, our own problems. So yeah, so we need to set, but we still have whatever we can. But if the student can't help themselves, so that's where we stop lah. Yeah. So inshallah. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I think we have 5 minutes left, but before we normally when the training start, I'll call first Prof. Mira as Director of PD to give a welcome remark, but now she's here, then she can give us a concluding remark for this webinar, inshallah. Prof. Mira?
All right, okay, thank you so much, Dr. Aini, Sister Hilda from CPD that have organized this session, especially for the two very dear colleagues, Dr. Aisha and Dr. Aliza. Honestly, I prefer, I'm so glad that I choose the end to give my ending remarks, not welcoming remarks, because I've learned so much from both of you today. I took notes, a lot of notes from both of your sharing, and I feel so happy and hopeful to hear your sharing today because
Anyone can hear Prof. Mira? Okay.
see how much you touch the heart. So thank you so much. I'm sorry, I think is it disconnected? Is it still free?
It's now. Yeah.
So so sorry, yeah, but glad the camera was off just now. So I actually cried a little bit seeing how much you really inspires me today, and it's Friday. So I prayed that may Allah bless both of you, bless your family, because you have given so much to the Ummah, and I'm very sure you will see these fruits in the day that we will try to find all fruits of our good deeds. So thank you so much. And again, Jazakumullah khair, and thank you so much for all the participants. You are inspiring that you still spend the time to learn in this end of the week. So may Allah bless all of you, and Jazakumullah khair for everyone. Thank you. Barakallahu fikum.
Thank you, Prof. Okay, so before we take pictures, let's end with Tasbih Kafar to us first. Okay, and now please turn on your camera. Let me take the how many screen we have? We have 3 screens. Okay.
I'm sorry, Dr. Aini. I think I have to stop the spotlight first so that everyone can be in the screen. Wait a sec.
Okay, I can see the screens now. Okay, so screen 1. Everyone smile. Okay. Dr. Isaac is really smiling. All right, and then let's go to second screen.
Okay, so I think we have everyone.
Okay. We go to second screen. Okay. Smile, everyone. 1, 2, 3. And the last screen. Okay, smile, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much for those who joined since the beginning until now. And I hope that the knowledge sharing session by our esteemed expert just now can inspire you to do well, improve more in your FYP supervision, inshallah. Till we meet again, thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, everyone. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Aisha, Dr. Aliza.